Welcome to HardScript.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I realized something was wrong the moment she laughed. Not the sweet kind I used to know, but sharp, public, deliberate. We were at a rooftop bar downtown, surrounded by her colleagues. The air smelled like burnt espresso and wet asphalt after the rain. She was in her element, bright, magnetic, performing. Someone had made a joke about engineer husbands, and she turned it into a show. Ethan? Oh, he builds firewalls, she said, swirling her Starbucks drink with a straw. The man could probably password protect his emotions if he tried. The table roared with laughter. She looked at me as if daring me to react. I didn't. I just smiled, finished my drink, and watched her bask in the attention. My name is Ethan Cole, 38 years old. Cybersecurity engineer for a defense contractor. I've spent my life making systems stable, predictable, unbreakable. I married Allison because she was everything I wasn't, ambitious, loud, the kind of woman who filled every room she entered. For years, I thought we balanced each other. She thought she was teaching me to live. I thought I was teaching her to stay grounded. Turns out, we were both wrong. Lately, she'd started treating our marriage like one of her marketing campaigns. Presentation, narrative, optics. Everything had to look effortless, perfect, enviable. She lived for the spotlight, and I became the background. I noticed the shift when she started mentioning a name too often, Ryan. Her new intern. He's such a quick learner, she'd say, smiling at her phone during dinner. I'd ask nothing. She'd volunteer nothing. But the way she used his name, like punctuation, told me everything I needed to know. A week before that rooftop humiliation, I saw them at Target. I was there picking up light bulbs. She was grabbing coffee with a colleague. Ryan was with her, carrying her shopping basket like a pet in training. They didn't see me, or maybe they did and didn't care. She was laughing then, too, leaning too close, brushing his sleeve as if testing boundaries. I didn't confront her. That's not who I am. I take in data, analyze patterns, and act when the outcome is certain. So I waited. That night on the rooftop was the confirmation. When she mocked me in front of her team, it wasn't just cruelty, it was strategy. She wanted control, dominance, and audience. She got her applause. But what she didn't know was that I was already designing my exit. Quietly, systematically. When the night ended, she didn't even look for me. Her team moved to another bar, and she followed, glowing under the city lights like a performer taking an encore. I walked to the parking lot alone. The Camry sat under a flickering street lamp, silent and waiting, just like me. I drove home without music, without thought, just a slow hum of clarity building in my chest. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I knew the old version of me had already expired. I spent the next morning at Lowe's, buying things that didn't matter: screws, paint rollers, a new padlock for the shed. I wasn't fixing anything. I was calibrating my mind. There's something peaceful about hardware aisles. Everything labeled, categorized, logical. No performance. No chaos. Just order waiting to be built. I stood there for a long time, thinking about how to dismantle a life the same way you decommission a compromised network, quietly, piece by piece, until nothing vulnerable remained. At home, Allison was already posting stories from her office, Starbucks cup in hand, a selfie with her team, Ryan's reflection faintly visible in the glass behind her. She didn't even hide it. Maybe she thought I'd never look. Or maybe she wanted me to. Attention was her oxygen, and I was cutting off her supply. That evening, she came home later than usual. Perfume too heavy, smile too sharp. She told me about her amazing day, how Ryan had really stepped up on the new campaign. I nodded once, said nothing. My silence unsettled her more than any question could. She tried to provoke me, hinting at how confident Ryan was becoming, how she loved mentoring ambitious people. I let the words hang in the air like static. That night, while she showered, I logged into our shared accounts. I started small, bank notifications redirected, password managers reset, credit card alerts rerouted to my private email. I didn't delete anything yet. I just took back the keys she didn't know she'd lost. When she walked into the bedroom, wrapped in a towel, she looked at me the way someone looks at furniture. Familiar, unimportant. I looked back and realized I'd already left her. She just didn't know it yet. 3 days later, she invited friends over for dinner. Just a casual get-together. she said, pretending we were still a team. I knew better. These weren't friends. They were her audience. Ryan was there too, trying too hard to look confident, standing close enough to her to make the meaning clear. She called him the future of the department, and everyone laughed. Then she glanced at me, waiting for my reaction. I gave her none. I poured myself a drink, sat quietly, and let her perform. The evening stretched on like a test. Every story she told included Ryan somehow. His ideas, his progress, his potential. Every compliment toward him was an indirect insult to me. At one point, she looked around the table and said, "Ethan's great with systems, but he's not exactly spontaneous." That was the moment, the one she'd been building toward. The final laugh. The room filled with forced amusement, people unsure whether to laugh or stay silent. I smiled once, just enough to disarm them, and said nothing. Later, while clearing dishes, she leaned close and whispered, "You could at least pretend to be interesting." Her voice carried that cruel satisfaction of someone who thinks they've won. I said only one sentence, calm and even. "A doormat stays put. I'm leaving." She blinked, confused for a second, before realizing I wasn't bluffing. I set the plate down, grabbed my jacket, and walked out. The air outside was cold, the kind that clears your head instantly. I got in the car, started the engine, and didn't look back. The house behind me still glowed with laughter, but it already sounded distant. I drove to a small motel off the highway, paid cash, and checked in under my middle name. The room smelled like detergent and anonymity. Perfect. That night, I opened my laptop and began executing the plan I'd quietly drafted in my mind. I moved our savings into my new account, disconnected joint subscriptions, disabled shared calendars. By the time the clock hit midnight, our digital life, our photos, playlists, even our grocery list, belonged to me alone. She had built her power on visibility. I would erase myself from her screen. By morning, I'd be gone everywhere that mattered. By dawn, the motel room was cold, filled with the soft hum of the air conditioner and the quiet rhythm of my breathing. I hadn't slept, but I didn't need to. I felt sharper than I had in years. At 6 a.m., I checked my phone, 13 missed calls, 9 messages from Allison. All variations of confusion and anger. "Where are you? We need to talk. You're being ridiculous." I didn't respond. Silence was the first line of defense. It was also the one thing she could never weaponize. I drove to a diner nearby and ordered black coffee. No phone, no laptop, just me and the plan. She had always underestimated what quiet men were capable of. She thought my calm meant submission, when in reality, it was structure, an algorithm running in the background. By the time she realized what was happening, the system would already be reset. After breakfast, I spent the day finalizing the logistics. I rerouted utilities, insurance, and digital subscriptions into my name only. Facebook Marketplace became my silent accomplice. Every item I didn't want from the house, tools, furniture, decor she'd picked for appearances, I listed for sale. Cash only. No trace. Every sale meant less of me in her world and more of her surrounded by the hollow remains of what she built. By late afternoon, she found a way to track me down. A text popped up. "You're really doing this?" I looked at it for a long moment before deleting it unread. Then I disabled message previews altogether. From now on, she could talk only to herself. That evening, I stopped at a Lowe's parking lot, sitting in the car, watching people carry out lumber and boxes, the quiet rhythm of people fixing their lives one project at a time. I realized that's what I was doing too. Not breaking something. Rebuilding. Without noise, without witnesses, without her. Back at the motel, I opened Hulu on my laptop. The screen glowed in the dark, the sound of some random show playing just to fill the silence. For the first time in years, the quiet didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I wasn't gone yet, but she'd already lost me completely. The morning after I left, I watched the sun rise through the dusty motel blinds. It looked almost clean, like a new page. I brewed the cheap in-room coffee and stared at my phone. She hadn't stopped texting. The messages shifted from anger to confusion to fear. "This isn't funny. We can fix this. Come home." Each one sounded smaller than the last. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I opened my laptop and started wiping myself from her world completely. First were the shared accounts. Streaming services, cloud storage, calendars, even our grocery app. Each login was a doorway to a life I no longer recognized. I changed the passwords, rerouted billing, and quietly removed her access. She'd built our life on constant connection. Notifications, reminders, synced devices. Her empire of attention. By noon, it was gone. Then came the digital traces. Old photos on her phone's shared drive. Tagged posts, anniversary captions, even playlists. I deleted my presence like a ghost cleaning up after his own death. Every click felt cleaner, lighter. Around lunchtime, I parked outside a Target just to watch people move through ordinary life. Couples arguing over curtains, parents wrangling kids, cashiers scanning items like it all meant something. I saw her car pull into the lot a few rows down. She wasn't alone. Ryan sat in the passenger seat, awkward, half-turned toward her, clearly uncomfortable. She looked around nervously, scanning the crowd. For a second, I thought she might somehow see me. She didn't. They went inside together, walking close but not touching, the kind of distance people use when they're pretending there's nothing to hide. I didn't feel anger, just confirmation. It was always about control, not love. She needed to prove she could shape the world around her, even if it meant destroying it. I drove away before they came out, the Camry silent on the road. That night, she called again, her voice shaking through voicemail. "Ethan, please, can we talk?" I didn't mean, then it cut off. I didn't replay it. She was learning something she'd never understood before. Attention isn't power. Presence is. And I was taking mine away for good. By the second day, the silence started to do its work. I didn't need to block her. The absence itself was louder than any confrontation. She kept calling, texting, sending emails that grew shorter and more frantic. The subject line said everything. "Please, we need to talk. Don't do this." I ignored them all. I wasn't punishing her. I was just erasing the connection that had stopped meaning anything long ago. I checked the home security feed one last time before closing the account. She was pacing through the living room, phone in hand, scanning every device as if trying to pull me back through sheer persistence. The furniture looked the same, but something about the space already felt empty. Without realizing it, she was living inside a replica of a life I'd already dismantled. In the motel, my days fell into quiet routines. Morning coffee, long drives, a stop at Lowe's now and then, walking the aisles not to buy anything but to remind myself of order, shelves lined, labels facing forward, everything in its right place. It was strange how peace could look like fluorescent lights and freshly cut lumber. That evening, she tried a new tactic. Her assistant called from an unknown number, pretending it was urgent. I let it ring out. Moments later, another text came through, Ryan's name this time. "She's really upset. Maybe just talk to her." The irony almost made me laugh. The intern giving marriage advice. I deleted it. That night, I opened Hulu again, scrolling through shows I didn't watch, letting the hum of dialogue fill the space. The glow from the screen reflected off my coffee mug, the one thing I'd taken from the house. It wasn't sentimental. It was proof. Proof that I'd existed there once and chosen to leave on my own terms. Some men fight back with words, with shouting matches and broken glass. I fought back by disappearing, by taking the one thing she couldn't replace, my quiet. And somewhere between the stillness and the hum of the motel fridge, I realized I didn't miss her at all. On the third morning, I stopped checking my phone entirely. There was no need. The silence had taken over for me, doing what words never could. She was unraveling, and I could feel it through the quiet, the way you can sense a storm before it hits. I checked my email once, only to find automated notifications from accounts I'd closed. Her name was gone from every subscription, every service. The digital threads that used to tie us together had dissolved. I took a long drive through the industrial outskirts of town just to think. Passing warehouses, empty parking lots, and construction sites, I saw reflections of my own rebuild. Every system has to fail before it's secure again. That was the lesson. She'd built her power on exposure, meetings, photos, posts, constant performance. But she never understood that once the audience leaves, the spotlight burns out by itself. That evening, I pulled up our shared photo storage one last time before deleting the folder. Thousands of pictures, trips, holidays, smiles that now looked staged. The final image was from a barbecue months earlier, Allison leaning close to Ryan, her hand resting lightly on his arm. I remembered that night. She had said it was harmless. I had believed her because belief was easier than admitting the truth. I deleted the entire archive in one click. No anger, no hesitation, just control restored. Around midnight, I got a voicemail from her friend Kara. She sounded shaken. "She's falling apart, Ethan. She says you've disappeared. Please, just tell her something." I didn't reply. I wasn't missing. I was finished. I spent that night driving again, the Camry's dashboard glowing soft blue, the hum of the tires steady like breathing. I didn't feel rage or grief, just balance. For years, she dictated the tempo of our lives. Now, the silence was mine to conduct. By the time I returned to the motel, I felt lighter. She had the house, the career, the audience. I had clarity. And in the quiet arithmetic of life, clarity was worth more than everything she kept. By the end of the week, her silence replaced mine. The calls stopped. The texts disappeared. Even the mutual friends went quiet, unsure which side of the story to believe. That's how manipulation collapses. Once the audience senses weakness, the performance loses value. I didn't celebrate it. I just observed it, like watching a system power down after overload. Predictable, inevitably quiet. I spent my days rebuilding the practical parts of my life. New bank accounts, a different number, fresh logins. I rented a small studio near the edge of town. One room, one desk, one clean start. I furnished it through Facebook Marketplace, buying back the essentials I'd once sold off. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was repurchasing fragments of stability, but this time they belonged only to me. One night, I stopped for coffee at a drive-thru near her office. I didn't plan it, but I saw her there, standing outside with Ryan, mid-argument. Her posture was sharp, defensive, the same energy she used to project confidence. Ryan looked exhausted, holding his phone while she gestured wildly. It was clear he was realizing what I had already learned. Her attention wasn't affection, it was control. She fed on compliance, and when it ran out, she moved on. I didn't stay to watch. I just drove away, the sound of the Camry steady and calm. At a red light, my phone vibrated once, an unknown number. For a moment, I considered answering. Then I remembered that nothing good ever follows the phrase, "We need to talk." I let it ring until the sound faded. Back in the studio, I sat on the floor with a cup of coffee, looking at the blank walls. No photos, no memories, no noise. Just the soft hum of quiet that I'd spent years chasing without realizing it. The world didn't collapse when I left her. It became precise, balanced, logical. She had mocked me for being predictable, but predictability had saved me. And somewhere in that silence, I finally understood, order wasn't weakness. It was freedom. A month passed before she finally showed up. I knew it would happen eventually. People like her can't stand unanswered questions. They need control, even if it's over ashes. It was late afternoon, golden light spilling through the blinds of my studio when I heard the knock. 2 short taps, then silence. I didn't open right away. I finished my coffee first, the last sip going cold. When I finally turned the handle, she stood there. Perfect makeup, tired eyes, clutching a Starbucks cup like it was armor. She looked around the small space, trying to disguise her shock. It wasn't the place she remembered. No photos, no warmth, just clean simplicity. "So this is where you disappeared to," she said. Her tone was soft, but the control was still there, woven into every syllable. I didn't answer. She filled the silence like she always did, talking fast, explaining how everything had gotten out of hand, how she'd been under pressure, how Ryan had misunderstood things. It was a speech designed to reset the narrative. I let her finish, then said quietly, "You wanted an audience. You don't have one anymore." She blinked, as if the sentence didn't register. Then she laughed, brittle and hollow. "You think walking away makes you strong?" she asked. I met her eyes and said nothing. Strength didn't need a declaration. She tried to look around, searching for signs of weakness. Unpaid bills, chaos. Anything to prove her story still mattered. But there was nothing. Just order. She stood there another moment, then set her coffee on the counter. "You'll regret this," she said. It sounded rehearsed, like a line from a presentation. When she left, I didn't watch her go. The door closed softly, and that was it. No closure, no grand finale. Just quiet. I deleted her number that night, not out of anger, but efficiency. Systems work better without redundant processes. That evening, I watched an old movie on Hulu, the kind that doesn't demand attention. The light flickered across the empty walls, and for the first time in years, I wasn't analyzing or defending or waiting. I was just still. The storm had passed, and all that remained was calm. 2 weeks after she showed up, I got a letter. Not an email, not a text, an actual envelope, hand-addressed. The handwriting was hers. For a second, I almost didn't open it. But curiosity won. Inside was a single sheet of paper. I never wanted it to end like this, it said. You disappearing made me realize what silence really feels like. I thought attention was power. I was wrong. No apology, no promises, just that. I folded the letter once and slipped it into a drawer I rarely used. It wasn't forgiveness I felt, or even satisfaction. It was confirmation that the system had worked. I hadn't shouted, begged, or proved anything. I just stepped out of the loop she kept spinning. She'd built her world around noise, and when the noise stopped, so did her control. Life became simple. I kept my work remote, projects steady, days quiet. Weekends were for drives, long stretches of highway where thought and movement blurred together. Sometimes I'd pass the old neighborhood and wonder if she still lived in that house full of echoes. Maybe she did. Maybe she filled it with new distractions, new faces, new noise. But it didn't matter. I'd built something different, an environment that didn't require validation to exist. One night, I sat on the floor with my laptop open, the blue glow washing over the walls. The Hulu homepage hovered on the screen, same as always, waiting for a choice. I let it sit there. Outside, the city buzzed faintly, distant and harmless. I thought about how she used to mock the quiet in me, the stillness she couldn't understand. But the truth was simple. Silence isn't absence. It's control. I closed the laptop, turned off the light, and let the room go dark. No notifications, no waiting messages, no sound but my own breathing. Somewhere out there, she was probably scrolling, refreshing, looking for something to fill the empty space I left behind. But there was nothing left to see. I hadn't taken revenge. I'd taken peace. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories.